What's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new RetroFlag Gpi Case 2W. So this is an upgrade from the old Gpi Case, which, when it came to the market, definitely changed the Raspberry Pi handheld scene. And since then, they have released a couple revisions, even one that supports a CM4, which is going to be their most powerful model that they offer right now. But they just released the new Gpi Case 2W. And yeah, we've got some welcome and awesome upgrades here when it comes to these Raspberry Pi Zero 2 powered handhelds. So the original Gpi Case was really meant for the Raspberry Pi Zero, and with that we had a single core there up to 1 gigahertz. But with the newer Raspberry Pi Zero 2W, we've got a quad core chip here, and we've also got built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now the whole unit itself has been upgraded. Instead of using a TFT 2.8-inch LCD display, we've got a new 3-inch IPS display, which definitely looks a lot better. It's got a built-in rechargeable battery. They've also added a turbo/function and a home button up front here. And from what I've tested and what I can tell, the speaker system has definitely been upgraded in this because it sounds so much better than the original Gpi Case, and we get a lot more volume out of this unit. And of course, because it is a RetroFlag device, we've got that safe shutdown, and it's also got low battery shutdown. So it'll properly shut itself down before it dies so we don't corrupt our SD card. The screen here is definitely a welcome upgrade. We've got a higher resolution than the original Gpi Case, and it is coming in a bit bigger. The original was 2.8 inches, this is 3 inches, and it might not sound like a lot, but it does give us a lot more screen space here to work with. Over here on the right hand side, we've got our volume wheel, and it's not mentioned in the documentation, but it does have a much better sound system in my opinion. And over here on the left hand side, we've got our contrast wheel and our charging port. Now we had this port on the original Gpi Case, but we really never made much use of it because we used AA batteries in that. But with the new Gpi Case 2W, we get a 2800 mAh rechargeable battery, and this is user replaceable. You can actually unplug this and get a new battery to plug right into it. But yeah, this should offer plenty of power for the Raspberry Pi Zero 2. And this was one of the biggest complaints with the original Gpi Case, having to use AA batteries. But with this, we've got that rechargeable battery built in. It's also got a 3.5mm audio jack on the bottom, and our power/cartridge lock button up here. And I gotta say, this screen does look a lot better. Instead of using a TFT LCD, it's now an IPS with a higher resolution and a bit bigger, coming in at 3 inches. Now with that safe shutdown system, you will have to install the script with whatever operating system you want to use, but all you need to do is power it off. It'll automatically go through the safe shutdown, and we can actually take the cartridge right out of the back. Now assembly on this is just as simple as the original Gpi Case. The Raspberry Pi is going to go inside of here, and this does work with the Raspberry Pi Zero 1, the Zero W, and the Zero 2W. We still have full access to that micro SD card once everything's assembled, so you can swap this out really easily. And I'll give you a look at the internals of this cartridge real quick. And basically, there's just 4 screws here, and you have to plug in 1 micro USB port. But it's going to make contact with the GPIO pins on the Raspberry Pi Zero using the Pogo pins on the card itself, or the cart PCB. And it makes contact. Once you have everything assembled, it's going to send everything we need to the screen and buttons from the Raspberry Pi. So it's actually still really easy to set this thing up. And one thing I wanted to be clear about here is, yes, around back we do have 2 extra buttons. We've got R and L, so we've got 2 trigger buttons or shoulder buttons, whatever you want to call them on this device. You can reach them pretty easily, but that's it. We don't have R1, R2, and L1 and L2. Now when it comes to the overall specs, it might differ a bit if you're just going to be using a regular Raspberry Pi Zero 1, but with this we've got that Raspberry Pi Zero 2W. It's got the BCM2710A1 quad-core Cortex-A53 CPU running at 1 GHz. Now I have been able to overclock this to 1.2. I don't notice too much of a difference because what we can play on this is basically up to PS1, and it actually handles some easier to emulate N64 games quite well. But with this, we've got 512 megabytes of LPDDR2 RAM, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, and when it comes to the case or the handheld itself, we've got that 3-inch IPS display with a resolution of 640 by 480, a 2800 mAh rechargeable battery, and this is user replaceable if you ever need to get in there. We've also got a new turbo button/swap button and a home button located on the front of the Gpi Case, and this is capable of running Recalbox, RetroPie, or Batocera. And for this video, I'm going to be running Recalbox. It just makes it a little easier to get set up. And we also have a dedicated Gpi Case theme here, which just kind of brings everything up to the front so we can see it a bit better. But if you're not into this, we can always swap this theme out, just like any of these front ends. It is using Emulation Station. There are a few built into Recall Box, or you could add your own if you want to. Personally, I kind of like the stock look. Now, when it comes to the blue background, this can also be adjusted because on these smaller screens, I've always found it a bit hard to see some of the consoles as we're scrolling through here. But again, since it is Emulation Station, this is fully customizable. And I've just swapped out to kind of the stock Recall Box theme. Had to do a quick reboot here. Now we've got that vertical wheel to kind of scroll through, but you might be able to notice what I'm talking about with that blue background. Some of the clear logos here for the consoles just kind of clash with that background, so you might want to change this out. And overall, the Raspberry Pi Zero 2W does handle Emulation Station quite well. We've got that built-in Wi-Fi, so we can easily transfer ROMs over, or you could use the share partition on the SD card and plug it directly into your PC. Plus, we can go ahead and scrape all of our images, games, and metadata directly on the device. But really, this little handheld is about gaming, so let's go ahead and just check out a few emulators running here. Starting it off with Game Boy Advance, I've actually had really good luck with this emulator here, even on the original Raspberry Pi Zero. Now, there were a few games that had a bit of lag. We're not going to have an issue playing our favorite GBA games. And of course, with the original Gpi Case, we could have added the 2W to that, but again, we've got those AA batteries, and there were some users complaining about audio being cut out while you're playing a game. It would cut out every 15 seconds. But with their latest updated config file for this case and the Zero 2, we're not experiencing any of those issues. And one thing I just wanted to demo here was the sound on this thing. I'm not even at half sound right now. I'm going to go ahead and turn it up. Yeah, much louder, much clearer. Next up, we've got some 32X with Primal Rage. This is one of my favorite games, at least the arcade version. Even when I was younger, I noticed that this version was a lot slower than the arcade version, and I mean, it's kind of hard to play now given, how slow these characters move. Now, it is running at full speed on the Zero 2W. This is just how the game is on the 32X. Here's some PS1 emulation with Colin McRae's Rally 2.0. Really awesome rally game. Even to this day, I still love playing this game, especially with a nice little upscale. Now, on the Zero 2W or the Raspberry Pi Zero, we're not going to be able to upscale it, but since we're working with such a small display, I still think it looks great, and it plays just fine on this device. And finally here for the demo, we've got some N64 emulation. This is Diddy Kong Racing. I also tested Mario Kart and Super Mario 64. Really good performance on the Zero 2W. I was actually surprised. But it's been a while since I've tested N64 on these lower end Raspberry Pis. And in that time, I'm sure we've gotten a lot of optimizations. But yeah, these games will be playable. Now, not everything. Something like 007 GoldenEye is still a bit slow on this device. But there's a ton of games that'll work great. And the final thing I wanted to show off was the new turbo functionality. There's actually a couple things we can do with this. All we need to do is hold the turbo button and press a button that we want to activate. So I'm going to do my shoot button here, and now we've got it set up for turbo. Works out really well for these shooters. Now with a game like this, we do have that hold to charge up, but you could probably get through this whole thing with just the turbo on. Now we've also got auto turbo, which I thought was pretty cool. If we hold the turbo button and press that button 2 times, it'll automatically just be on turbo for us, so we don't even have to touch it anymore. And to deactivate it, hold the turbo button, press that button 1 more time, it's not going to be there anymore. So you just got regular functionality. But yeah, this is actually pretty cool to add something like this. Now, if I was playing competitively, I might be upset about something like this, but if I'm playing in my free time, I don't mind using this in a few different games. And this will work with any button on the handheld itself. So if you wanted to go with the directional pad or even start and select, you can set that up as turbo also. But yeah, overall, this is definitely a welcome upgrade when it comes to these Gpi cases. Glad to see that bigger screen. Love the sound system here. Now we're still only working with the mono speaker, but I'm not sure if they upgraded the amp or the speaker itself. But I can tell you from experience, this gets twice as loud as the original Gpi case, and it sounds really, really good now. So if you're interested in learning more, maybe picking one of these up, I will leave a few links in the description. RetroFlag has all of the documentation over on their website. You can download their specially built recall box image to get this up and running in no time, or you could do it yourself. If you wanted Batocera or RetroPie, you could always go that route also. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you have any questions, or if you want to see anything else tested or running on the new Gpi Case 2W, let me know in the comments below. Like always, thanks for watching.